Think back to a single summer when you were 8 years old. It felt endless. One afternoon could stretch out like a small lifetime, long enough to build a fort, start a war, forget it, and still be bored before dinner. Now think about last week. It is already gone. You can barely remember what happened in it, and it seems like yesterday you were saying the exact same thing about last month. Your clock did not change. It ticks at exactly the same speed it did when you were 8. But something inside you has been quietly speeding up for your entire life. And by the end of this video, you will know precisely what it is, why nearly every adult on Earth feels it, and the specific, tested way to slow it back down. Start with how strange this actually is. Time is the one thing everyone is handed in identical units. 60 seconds a minute. 60 minutes an hour. It never varies. And yet, ask almost anyone over 30, and they will tell you the years are accelerating. Birthdays arrive faster. The end of the year seems to come around every few months. Whole seasons vanish between one glance and the next. This is not a handful of people being dramatic. It is one of the most consistent reports in all of human psychology, across cultures and across centuries. So if the clock is fixed, the change has to be happening inside you. The oldest and most seductive explanation is a piece of pure arithmetic. In 1877, a French philosopher named Paul Janet proposed something so simple it feels obviously true the moment you hear it. He suggested that you measure each new stretch of time against the total amount of time you have already lived. Follow the math. When you are 2 years old, 1 year is half of your entire existence. It is gigantic. When you are 10, a year is a tenth of your life. Still huge. A single school year feels like an era. But when you are 50, that same year is just 1/50th of everything you have ever known. It has to fit inside a life that already holds 49 others. Proportionally, it shrinks to almost nothing. This idea was picked up by one of the founders of modern psychology. William James, in his landmark book, The Principles of Psychology in 1890, wrote that the same span of time feels shorter as you grow older. Each passing year, he said, seems to fall away faster than the last. He gave Janet's ratio a home inside serious science, and it has never really left. And it is a beautiful theory. It draws a clean, smooth curve. It predicts that childhood should feel vast, and later life should feel like a blur, which is exactly what people report. If your own memory of time is already starting to feel a little strange, do this channel one quick favor, hit like and subscribe. It takes 1 second, and it is the single biggest thing that keeps deep dives like this one coming. Then settle in, because that tidy little theory you just heard is about to fall apart. Here is the problem with the arithmetic. The proportional idea says the shrinking should be smooth and mechanical, every year a slightly thinner slice than the last. But that is not how the acceleration actually feels, and it is not what happens when you test people carefully. The felt speed of time is lumpy. Some years crawl. Some entire decades evaporate. Two people the exact same age can live at wildly different speeds. Pure math cannot explain any of that. Something else is doing the real work, and it is hiding inside your memory. Look at how you actually judge the length of a period after it is over. You do not consult a clock. You look at how much you remember. A stretch of time packed with vivid, distinct memories feels long. A stretch that is one smooth, gray smear feels short, no matter how many days it technically contained. Now think about what your brain records and what it quietly throws away. It writes rich, detailed memories for things that are new. First day at a new school. First kiss. First time alone in a foreign city. The first time you drove a car by yourself. Novelty forces your brain to pay attention and lay down dense, specific detail. Routine does the opposite. When something is familiar, your brain stops bothering. It runs on autopilot and stores almost nothing. And childhood is nothing but firsts. Everything is new. Every single day writes pages of memory. That is why one summer at 8 could feel like a decade. Not because of a ratio, but because it was crammed with fresh, vivid first-time experience. Adult life is the reverse. The same commute, the same job, the same faces, the same meals, the same route home. Your brain, running on autopilot, records almost none of it. 10 years of it can compress into a single gray block. You reach the end of a year and it feels like it barely happened, because, in terms of memory, barely any of it did. There is real evidence for this, not just a nice story. In the 1990s, a psychologist named Peter Mangan ran a beautifully simple experiment. He asked people to do nothing but sit and silently judge when 3 minutes had passed. No counting out loud. No clock. Young adults, aged around 19 to 24, were almost perfect. They called it at about 3 minutes and 3 seconds. But older adults, in their 60s and 70s, kept going. On average, they only stopped at around 3 minutes and 40 seconds. For them, more real time had slipped past unnoticed. Time was genuinely running faster inside their heads. Memory researchers found the same pattern coming from another direction. Ask an older person to recall vivid memories from across their whole life. And the memories are not spread out evenly. They cluster. A huge share come from a narrow window between roughly 15 and 25 years old. Psychologists call it the reminiscence bump. Those are the years stuffed with firsts. First love, first job. Leaving home, becoming who you are. Dense memory, slow time. After that, for many people, the density drops, and the years begin to blur into one another. The science writer Claudia Hammond gave the everyday version of this a name in her 2012 book on time perception. She called it the holiday paradox. Think about a week somewhere completely new. While you are living it, packed with new sights and sounds, it can feel like it is racing by. But look back on it a month later and it feels enormous, far bigger than an ordinary week at home, because it left behind so many distinct memories. A dull, familiar week does the exact opposite. It feels normal while you live it, then collapses to nothing in the rearview mirror. The length of a stretch of time and memory is built out of novelty, not out of hours. The neuroscientist David Eagleman pushed on the strangest edge of this. He wanted to know what happens to time in a moment of pure terror. So he had volunteers dropped in free fall from a tower into a safety net and strapped a small screen to each wrist, flashing numbers just a little too fast to read at normal speed. If fear really slowed time down the way it does in the movies, the falling person should have been able to read those flashing numbers. They could not. But afterwards, they swore the fall had lasted far longer than it really had. Time did not actually slow. Their brains, flooded and hyper-alert, simply recorded a much denser memory, and a denser memory reads in hindsight as more time. This was published in 2007, and it points straight at the core truth. The feeling of how long something lasted is a story your memory builds for you afterward. There is a biological layer underneath all of this too. Your brain runs on a kind of internal pacemaker, and one of the chemicals that sets its speed is dopamine. As you age, your dopamine system gradually winds down. Researchers who study how the brain keeps time, like Warren Meck, have linked that decline to a slowing of the internal clock. When your inner pacemaker ticks more slowly, the outside world appears to tick faster by comparison. Fewer internal beats pass in a given minute, so the minute itself feels shorter. And here honesty matters, because not every popular explanation survives a closer look. In 2019, an engineer at Duke University named Adrian Bejan argued that time speeds up because the physical rate at which your brain processes mental images slows down with age. Fewer mental frames per second, he said, means fewer perceived moments, which means faster feeling time. It made headlines all over the world. It is a genuinely interesting idea, but it is a hypothesis, not settled fact, and plenty of researchers are skeptical of it. The strongest, best-supported answer is still the one built on memory and novelty. So pull it all together, time is not accelerating, your clock is perfectly fine. What is happening is that as you get older, your life fills up with repetition, your brain records less and less of it, and a lightly recorded year feels, in memory, like almost nothing at all. The simple ratio was never the real engine. Novelty is. And that one fact is where the escape hides. Because if empty routine is the thing that shrinks your years, then novelty is the thing that can stretch them back out. And unlike your age, novelty is completely under your control. You cannot add a single hour to the day, but you can change how much of your life your brain actually bothers to keep. Break the routine on purpose. Take a different route home. Learn something genuinely difficult. Go to places you have never been, even small and ordinary ones. Talk to people who are nothing like you. Do first things, deliberately as an adult, the way you did constantly as a child, without ever trying. Every real novelty drags your brain back off autopilot and forces it to write detail again. Paying attention does the same work from the inside. When you are truly present, instead of sleepwalking through another familiar day, you hand your memory something to keep. A photograph, a few written lines, a moment you decide, on purpose, to actually notice. These are not sentimental little extras. They are the raw material your brain uses to build the sense that time was full. So go back one last time to that endless summer when you were 8. It did not last a single minute longer than any summer you have had since. It only felt that way, because every day of it was new, and your brain wrote all of it down. Your clock never sped up. You just slowly stopped noticing your own life. And the good news is buried right there in the bad news. The moment you start noticing again, on purpose, the years begin to slow back down, not on the clock. And the only place time was ever really passing, in you.